Today, I'm planning on busting a few myths. Fancy joining me? Good. Now, in the last week, we've seen layoffs from major publishers such as BuzzFeed, Refinery29 and Verizon, and so many more. Monetization in the era of the duopoly is harder than ever. That's something that a lot of publishers are finding. But what can they do to compete? And yes, their first-party audience data might be the key to unlocking new revenue opportunities. But how do they do it? Now, Jason Downey is the Chief Strategy Officer at Lotame, and he's coming to join me on the show today to talk about this and so much more. And Lotame is one of the most popular data solutions companies for publishers, including some pretty big names out there, such as Bloomberg. And we're going to talk about how publishers can take advantage of their data for greater monetization, as well as revenue diversification. And along the way, we might bust a few myths around the industry, and much, much more too. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way back to the US so we can speak with Jason Downey, Chief Strategy Officer at Lotame. So, massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Jason Downey. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Lotame. Lotame has been around since 2007, providing publishers and marketers and agencies technology to allow them to collect, organize, and activate their data. I've been at Lotame since 2010, kind of managing the data business for Lotame, which is the Lotame Data Exchange, or LDX. Recently, in the last year or so, I've moved into the strategy role to kind of look at the Lotame's business across both data and the SaaS-based technology.
Now, Lotame is a hugely popular data solutions company for some big publishers such as Bloomberg, just to pick one name out of the air there. But can you tell the listeners a little bit more about the kind of problems that you solve for some of the biggest publishers in the world? Sure,
yeah. So publishers have, obviously, as folks that are listening here will know that, publishers have unique challenges today that have been blossoming over the last 5 years or so, 5 to 10 years, with the duopoly of Facebook and Google, and how can publishers compete in this day and age. And so Lotame offers a lot of different solutions to allow publishers to compete, to collect data from lots of different sources, to organize that data in many different ways across many different mediums. So collecting data from desktop and mobile and OTT, connected TV, and then joining them together to organize that data into different audience groups, and then run analytics across those, and then activate or distribute that data wherever it needs to go, and then run campaigns on their O&O properties as well as off-site, as well as to monetize their data with their clients, to name a few.
Now, one of the reasons I invited you on the show today was because in the last few weeks alone, we've seen layoffs from major publishers such as BuzzFeed, Refinery29 and Verizon. So monetization in the era of the duopoly is harder than ever. But in your opinion, what can publishers do to compete?
Yeah, that's a good question, Neil. I think the key for publishers today is to really take control of their data and to understand it, to make sure that they collect all of it that they can, and to organize it as best they can, and then to kind of let marketers know where to get it and how to get it and why it's great. And so, that's really the key. And so, big publishers need to really embrace the era of data. If you think about what makes publishers great for marketers is, their one-to-one relationships with consumers, and they can create content to deliver, custom messaging. And so the feedback loop of content creation and then delivery and then analyzing that content creation and the audiences of folks that visited it and then and read it, consumed it, and then feeding that back to create more content is super important that publishers do that. And you're right, it's harder and harder. So understanding that storyline and that process is crucial.
And I think many publishers are told that first-party audience data is the easiest way of unlocking new revenue. But the more complicated aspect of that is, how do publishers take advantage of their own data for greater monetization? I mean, what kind of experience have you had with that?
Yeah, so I mean, first-party data is key, of course, and that's what I've been talking about as we start here. But blending that first-party data with, second-party data and third-party data for analytics and activation is key as well. If a publisher has a lot of kind of endemic context, say they're a health provider, they may not have demographic data, they may not have other non-endemic data, and using technology to source other types of data to create a story that can be more granular, more exciting, more differentiated, is really important for publishers to be able to sell more.
So how do you think that same data can also unlock revenue diversification as well? Because I know that's an area that a lot of people are chasing, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's all kinds of new initiatives around, setting up real world events, for example, around the content. I know there's some kind of female lifestyle publishers that are setting up exercises classes in the real world, for example, and data is driving, those invites and where the locations of those will be set up, for example. There's subscription revenue and growing that base of business, which is a recurring revenue, and data is super important for that effort to look at your customers that have subscribed, like your heavy readers, your heavy users and consumers. What do they look like? And then how do you, build audiences to go get more of those and really, supercharge your subscription growth efforts.
Now, when it comes to the publishing industry and the digital transformation, it seems like everybody's got an opinion, especially online. So are there any common myths that we can finally lay to rest around it all today?
Well, I think, like you mentioned the layoffs, you mentioned, folks are saying, media and publishing is dying. And I think it's necessary. I think the myth is that you can't succeed there. And we have tons of clients. You mentioned Bloomberg. We have several more. I mean, Hearst, Advanced Internet, WebMD, the Weather Company, Tribune. In the UK, we have the Ozone Project, which is all the major news publications. In Australia, New Zealand, we have some of the biggest publishers and broadcasters there. And all of those folks are succeeding at one level or another by being smarter and more innovative about their data. At the end of the day, there's still massive audiences to monetize, and they just have to make sure they find the right way to do that and right size the business to do so.